Hello, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley here with you. Hopefully, you're having a good evening across the area. It is Wednesday. We're coming up on our winter storm coming up to this weekend. You notice I keep saying the word winter storm throughout the week. We are not using the word or two words, snowstorm. Reason for that, I tend to think this is going to be more on the icy side and less on the snowy side, which is a bummer. Snow is always preferable to ice or sleet. If you could swing it, it's more fun, all of those things. But as we tend to get closer and closer here, it has been looking more icy and less snowy. So I want you to know that as we get a little closer to this event. A couple of main points I'm going to hammer home here. We'll give you the latest information, our latest thoughts here as we get a little bit closer to the event. But thanks for being here with us, and we'll keep this going about 10 minutes or so. Let's get right to it. Taking a look right now. Wanted to get this up there in just big, plain, easy to understand language. The main points this evening. We are trending toward more ice and less snow. More ice, less snow. We're being prepared to be stuck for a couple of days. The main thing I want you to know with this event is that you should be prepared, at least, to be stuck for a couple of days. If your neighborhood's fine and there's nothing really problematic on the roads, well, good for you. I don't see that happening. I think most of us are going to have issues for travel because of sleet and freezing rain and a little bit of snow. And also power outages are going to be possible. You know, that's not something we've dealt with a lot in recent memory. Shoot, we haven't had an ice storm in a really long time either. So I do think that is part of the psychology here is we haven't really had a bad ice event in a long time. And so tends to be if the snow amounts go down, and you've seen these really silly weather apps saying something to the effect of 20 inches here or 30 inches there. That's not in the cards. That's never been rooted in reality. So if you take that snow threat away, a lot of people just check out. That's not what you should do here. We are looking at a likelihood of bad weather, and these impacts really could be tough. So what do you need to know? Well, bottom line, let's talk about your timeline. The timeline with this is going to be starting later than initially thought. So it's getting delayed a little bit. Most of the day on Saturday is probably going to be dry, especially in the morning. But as the day goes along, we are going to look at the opportunity to get in a little snow Saturday afternoon, and then by the evening, a lot of that's turning into sleet. You might not get any snow with this event. That's a possibility. Or you could get a little light accumulation, nothing more than a couple of inches in my mind for the Triad. The problem is once you go into Saturday night and then Sunday morning, we're seeing mostly sleet at that point, whole lot of sleet. And then freezing rain would be the biggest concern. And freezing rain is something that we look as a possibility mostly during the day on Sunday into Sunday night. Freezing rain is ice. So if you forget the difference between the two, sleet are the little ice balls. Freezing rain is what coats everything. Freezing rain is the glazed donut. Sleet is the sprinkle donut. You don't want freezing rain. That's not what you would like to have. Freezing rain is what creates power outages. That's what truly is an ice storm. And if you get enough of it, you can have some crippling impacts. You can have down trees, down power lines, and the like. So that's what we want to avoid. But I am here to tell you it's a possibility, okay? And it's not really my style to scare or be dramatic or anything like that. But I do just want to let you know that this is a serious situation. And we don't often have a lot of these, or we haven't had a lot of these in recent years. The scale of the system is very impressive. You look at these blue polygons here on the map. Shoot, I can show you the whole country. Everyone in blue, including us, is under a winter storm watch. Winter storm watch, what does that mean? It means we're within range, in this case of about 3 days, of having some major winter impacts. Significant winter impacts. So for our area, winter storm watch can mean a couple of things. It can mean you're getting a lot of snow, or it can mean you're getting a lot of ice. In this case, we kind of had the combination of the two, but it's trending toward more on the way toward the ice side of things. Here's just a quick broad brush. This is not set in stone. These lines are drawn in pencil, not pen. But who had the opportunity to get more ice? Who has the opportunity to get more snow? Areas shaded in blue here, in my mind, still have the opportunity to get, maybe several inches of snow before mixing with sleet. But even there, it's not a sure thing. Most of the Triad area having this light pinkish color. In my opinion, we'll get a burst of snow sometime Saturday afternoon. And then by Saturday evening, we're switching already to sleet. So it doesn't allow a lot of time for snow accumulation. So you should be rooting for it to start earlier if that's what you want to have. Because the earlier that snow begins, or the earlier precipitation starts, it has a better chance to beat the warm air. There's warm air above our heads. It's going to be brutally cold throughout the day, temperatures in the teens and 20s. But above our heads, believe it or not, there will be some air arriving that's above 32 degrees. And that's why you can't get much snowfall, unfortunately. So what do we do from this? After the burst of snow, you switch over to sleet. That sleet could continue a long time into the day on Sunday. Then by Sunday afternoon or middle of the day Sunday, we don't know yet. Sometime it will switch to freezing rain, and that's what you want to minimize. Freezing rain on top of sleet, on top of whatever, that's going to give that crusty, glazy, icy coating, and it coats everything. So it coats the power lines, it also coats the trees, and boy, can it be a problem. And the amounts here, the reason we're so concerned about this storm, it's not a light storm. It's a heavy storm. So whatever precipitation you get, snow, sleet, freezing rain, combination, it's going to be heavy. And it'll add up. And so it'll add up to problems as well. I don't think the snow impact is super high for our area. I think it's more low to moderate. But as we go along, the icing threat, the sleet threat, that's a concern, man. And so we have to watch this very carefully. You should be prepared to perhaps be stuck inside for a couple of days. And I just want you to be knowing that going forward. Power outage is going to be an issue, or could be an issue for our area. So those are some of the impacts for our region as we see it right now. Going forward, something we're going to have to watch very carefully will be the bitterly cold air that's going to linger around. So part of the problem is, once you get rid of the impacts of this, once you stop raining or snowing or sleeting from the sky, well, then you have what's left over. And that's on the roadways for a while. So we're talking about temperatures going into next week where you're going to have, a struggle to get above freezing throughout the day. And in the mornings, it'll be in the teens. And by Tuesday morning, it could be in the single digits. So those are all issues to consider and to watch for. So be prepared to be stuck inside for a couple of days. And what would you do? Think about what would you do if you lose power? Because with the size of this storm, it's possible that a decent chunk of the state could have no power. And that makes it difficult to fix. Why is this happening? Why do we have mixed precipitation? Well, here you go. We see snow when the air is cold all the way from the cloud all the way to the ground. Rain is when you have enough warm air for it to be just water. A lot of times rain starts as snow, especially this time of year, but it melts before it hits the ground. And if your air temperature is above 32, there's no problem with that. But if your air temperature is below 32, then you can have a bit of an issue. That's what we call freezing rain. Freezing rain is what happens when snowflakes get melted into raindrops, and then they hit the ground, and then they freeze because the air temperature is too cold. Now, if the air temperature is really cold, or if you don't have a lot of warmth above your head, just a little bit, that's when you can get sleet. And I do tend to think we are going to have a lot of sleet in this event. There are pros and cons when it comes to sleet. Freezing rain coats everything in sight and it weighs everything down. Sleet doesn't stick to stuff. And so the fact that it rolls right off a power line, it rolls right off a tree, that's not a problem for power outages or down trees. What it is a problem for is travel. Sleet can make for some really difficult travel, and it can stick around for weeks on the ground because it's so dense. But freezing rain is the worst thing, and we want to avoid that. If we get over a half an inch of ice, a lot of us are not going to have power for a while. So that's what we want to avoid and hope not to see happen. So that's your forecast here. I'm going to leave you and get ready for the 11 o'clock news, but always appreciate you joining us for weather updates. Here on WFMY Plus, we're going to have you covered over the next couple of days. Lots of extra coverage coming your way. We are certain this winter storm is heading our way, of course. It's just a matter of fine-tuning those details, but it's not missing us. It's not going to turn into a cold rain or anything like that. It's too cold out there. Too cold out there for that. So those are all things to consider as we get closer and closer. So just be paying attention to that. And I'll leave you right now with some live radar around the area.